It is so good to see you. Special hello to everybody who's connecting with us online. We're so glad you could be with us today, too. Hey, guys, we're 1 week into 2024. How many of you are already tired? Yeah, isn't it legit? Isn't it a real reality for us? Like, life goes fast. And no, this is not an ad for Fields Coffee, although it is a wonderful supplement to a tired morning. But life, with all the newness and the turning of the page and a new year and of all the things that I wish I could just snap my fingers and reset for everyone, for us at the Rector household, for all of you in all of your households. If I could just say this change would make life better, it would be a resetting of our daily, weekly, monthly rhythms. Just to slow it down, to take it in, and to experience a more full life than we presently feel. Because presently, we are running thin. We are running tired, we are busy, and we are going until we drop. Have I got anybody's attention? Life seems to be always accelerating, always getting quicker, always moving faster. And yet, we know that God has made us. He has created us, hardwired into our bodies, into our souls, into our emotions, a need to rest. A need to be still. Genesis, from the very, very beginning, God wired this into the DNA of the universe. Genesis chapter 2, verse 2. It says, on the seventh day, God finished from his work that he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all of his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. It doesn't matter how strong you are, how fit you are, how full of energy you are. Psalms even likes to talk about, or Isaiah talks about, even young men grow weary and fall. All of us at some point get tired, get exhausted. God created your mind, your body, your emotions to need rest. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, from the beginning here, I think we need a better rhythm. I think we need a better rhythm to do life in. And that better rhythm includes rest as a regular part of the schedule, a regular part of the routine. And I want to share with you why. And I want to share, as I share with you why, I think you'll also be able to see what we miss when we don't pattern rest into the rhythm of life. Here's one of the most important reasons why rest is so valuable. And again, I'm talking about this now, week 1-ish, week 2-ish of 2024, because I think it serves for us as a spot, as a moment in time to kind of put our foot down and say, this year is going to be different. Of all the things that could be different, this is what's going to be different about this year. This pattern is going to be a part of our life. Why is this important? Why is this better life rhythm important? Here's one reason why. A rhythm of rest creates space for the most important relationships you have to deepen. None more important than a relationship with God. And a pattern of rest creates a moment for it. There is no substitute for intentionally created space for connecting with God or for connecting with the people that you care about the most. There are times when our kids ask us, what are we doing? And it's asked so that we can go do something. And the answer is nothing. And so they hear, well, then we can. And I go, no. No, that's the beauty of tonight. How many of you, when you look in an evening or you come home after work and you ask the question, what do I have to do tonight? And the answer is nothing. You do like this little dance. You might even actually physically dance. Because nothing is on the schedule. Nothing is on the schedule. We live hurry, busied lives. Go, 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 go. And added to that, technology, for all that it is good, has meant that most of us don't know how to turn off or can't turn off very effectively because we're always getting texts and emails and beeps and alerts. Most of you are probably like me, and you know how to distinguish whether that was a messenger app that just alerted you, whether that was your email that just alerted you, whether that was text, whether that was GroupMe. I could go on and on and on. You know all the different sounds. You know all the different alerts. And every time one of those alerts comes in, there's an itch to go explore, to go check, to go respond. Some of that just keeps coming back into our world, and it starts coming into our world in our areas of margin, in our times of margin. But all deep relationships need intentionally created space to really flourish. Unplanned sometimes, unorganized, just room to think. When Jamie and I were dating, one of the things that happened was my world got reorganized. It got reorganized. My schedule changed because I wanted to make a priority to pursue a relationship with her. So that meant intramurals with the boys was out. That meant there was some arrangement of my normal rhythms that changed because I wanted to create space, a spot for that relationship to be able to happen. Didn't know where it was necessarily going to go, hoped where it might go, but I knew that you have to create space for that relationship to happen. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, and this might be a newsflash, I don't think it is, but she didn't walk out of a house and start walking down the street one morning, and I didn't start walking out of a house and start walking randomly down the same street the same morning, and we've just for 21 years been walking down roads together. That's not what happened at all. There was a point at which, because we wanted to make that relationship more meaningful, that we created space in our lives and in our schedules to allow that relationship to grow and to deepen. This was, I think, part of the idea of God creating and resting and then setting up the Sabbath in the Old Testament as a day in which people could pause, stop, reflect, no work, just worship, just God, just family. That's all this day is about. Psalm 46, verse 10, a famous verse, you've heard it before. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. There are moments in life where you are brought to a halt and forced to come to know because all of life has gotten still. And then there are moments where you can choose to push pause and reflect and connect and allow God room in your life to move. You have to carve out that space. Just like someone who's pursuing in a relationship, you have to carve out that space in a relationship with God. Part of the reason life is so crazy for you and I is that we are struggling to carve out the kind of space that we need, that our bodies are designed to be satisfied by. We are failing to carve out the time to just be with God. Without huge agenda, ask yourself, when was the last time that I sat quiet for 15 minutes? 15 minutes. And some of you, I could sit 15 minutes any day. I could do that anytime. That's not even hard. Try it. Try it. 15 minutes engaged, but with no agenda, to say, God, what is the next step in my relationship with you? To open up your heart and your mind and to allow him to speak into that so that you can be led into a deeper and more meaningful relationship with him. There's a lot going on in our lives. There's a lot of activity. But I love this word from an author named Noah Ben Shea. He says, it's the space between the notes that makes the music. And there's a little bit of truth to that in life. There's a lot of musical notes. There's a lot of going-ons in our lives. But some of it is going so fast, so furious, that there's no room for that music to be made because there's no space. Slowing down and setting a rhythm where you're regularly, and I mean daily, maybe weekly, maybe even seasonally, would look a little different. What does one day look like? What is something that needs to happen every week? What is something that maybe quarterly or even yearly you do as a more regular, I'm going to get away for an extended period of time. I'm going to draw some lines around an extended block of time to just spend a moment with God so He can speak to me. A rhythm of rest creates a space for this most important relationship to deepen. Here's another reason why this is important. A rhythm of rest creates a pace of life that is joyful and sustainable. One of the things that I feel in my own family's schedule often is, and those two words are intentionally put there because those are the rector words. Things don't feel joyful sometimes. Like we're doing it, but we're not happy. And there's times when you go, we can't keep, this is unsustainable. This is unsustainable. This is not something that we can continue to do. When you ask somebody how they are doing lately, how often, if you are asked, hey, how are you doing? How often would you say busy? How often would you say busy? I find that if you asked me a week ago, I'd say busy. If you asked me 2 months ago, I'd say busy. If you asked me the same time this year, how are you doing? I'd say, or last year, I'd probably say busy. You know what? That means there's a problem. That means there's a problem. That means that I'm organizing my schedule. I caught myself doing this. I caught myself in a casual conversation and realizing every time somebody asks me that, I say the same thing, busy. And I had kind of just accepted the fact that, well, you got 3 kids and they've got things going on and you have a career and your wife has a career, you're going to be. There's going to be things that are busy. But I've started to push against that and to say, yes, there's always going to be stuff. There's always going to be stuff. There's always going to be things. There's always going to be appointments. There's always going to be interruptions. There's always going to be schedules. But there's also always going to be priorities. There's always going to be opportunities for us to speak into the rhythm that we are going into. I think busy is killing us. I think we're like hearts in AFib, just going too fast all the time. And we need shocked back into a more sustainable pace. I heard this not too long ago. It was a revised version of Psalm 23 based on current pace of life. See if this connects with you. The clock is my dictator. I shall not rest. It makes me lie down only when exhausted. It leads me into deep depression. It hounds my soul. It leads me in circles of frenzy for activity's sake. And even though I run frantically from task to task, I will never get it all done, for my ideal is with me. Deadlines and my need for approval, they drive me. They demand performance from me beyond limits of my schedule. They anoint my head with migraines. My inbox overflows. Surely fatigue and time pressure shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the bonds of frustration forever. That hits a little too close to home, does it not? I think often we think we can squeeze in more and schedule more and ask more out of ourselves, but honestly, it starts to become counterproductive. What we need is margin. What we need is margin. And I know that our margin is sometimes where we put those other things that we like to do more, whether it's a side hustle or a hobby or a house project or God forbid, kids' sports. That just eats up every bit of margin in our house, it seems like. But I was reading earlier last year, Ephesians 5, and I had this thought. So Ephesians 5, verse 15 says this: be careful how you live. Don't live like fools, but like those who are wise. Make the most of every opportunity in these evil days. Don't act thoughtlessly, but understand what the Lord wants you to do. Now, there's a part of that verse that connects with another verse that we have come to as a church over and over and over and over. And you might have heard a little bit of it as I was reading and reflected to Colossians chapter 4. We spent an extensive amount of time as a church in Colossians 4 over the last couple years talking about being watchful for opportunities, looking for ways that God might open a door for us to connect people with the good news of the gospel. There's a phrase in there that Paul uses in Colossians 4 where he says, make the most of every opportunity. And his specific application there is about evangelism. Make the most out of every day to be able to reach somebody with the good news of the gospel of Christ. This same phrase is repeated here, but it's used in a very different application. The context of Ephesians 5 is not about evangelism. It's about living day in and day out under the guidance and lordship of Christ and allowing your character to be transformed. Think about this in relationship to the idea of rest. I'm going to go back and read this again now with that as a context. Be careful how you live. Don't live like fools. Live like those who are wise. Make the most of every opportunity. Don't act thoughtlessly, but understand what the Lord wants you to do. I don't know about you, but when I read that verse, I don't start thinking about what more I need to do. I start to think about what less do I need to do. What needs to be eliminated from the schedule? What needs to come off to be able to fight for next week's joy? What needs to come off of this week's schedule to fight for next week's joy? Because I find that there's a trail that happens. The fatigue and the crazy of one week, it shows up the next one. It doesn't always show up in the moment, but it's that perpetuation of that rhythm that happens. We need that rest. We need that rhythm. Here's another thing connected to rhythm that I think is important. A rhythm of rest creates a classroom to learn humility and dependency. Some of you go, well, I don't want that classroom. That's why I don't rest. I don't want that. Well, exactly. That's why we need this. And that's why God knew we needed this. That's why he knew we needed this. Our time is the most valuable resource that you and I have. And like our money, it tells volumes about what we value, what we believe, and what we really, truly hold on. God's rhythm of rest is a direct connection to the heart. Because an overbooked schedule is usually a symptom of an overcrowded heart. There's a lot going on in there. There's a lot that we're clamoring for, that we're trying to do. Kevin DeYoung has a book where he outlines he calls them the killer P's. His book is called Crazy Busy. Some of you went, I need to read that book. Crazy Busy. Others of you said, I don't even have time to read that book. I'm too busy. I can't read it. Well, let me just summarize it for you, okay? He outlines what he calls the killer P's. This is why we're busy. This is important. Why are we so busy? Why do we continue to take on more and to try to just cram more into the time that we have? Here's his answer to that. He says, for one, pride. I'll just let you think about these. I'll let you maybe grab your top one or two. Pride. We're proud that we work so hard and that we never stop and that we're doing and achieving and building and never, ever needing to stop. People pleasing. Pats on the back. Possessions. We go so hard because we want a thing, and we're going to justify whatever time commitment it takes, whatever effort it takes, because we're trying to have a thing, a house, a boat, a vacation. Proving myself. That's another one. I want someone else to be able to look at me and say, hey, they are significant. Maybe I need to do it for my own good. Poor planning. There's another reason why we're crazy busy. We put off or planned poorly something that was needing to be done a long time ago. Power. We want control. Or lastly, perfectionism. We just won't stop because we just keep tweaking, we keep correcting, we keep coming back to it. I don't know what it may be for you. But what I've learned in my seasons where life is just too busy and I feel God tapping me on the heart saying it's time to slow down is that God is trying to show me that it's in the classroom of rest that some of Jesus' finest work is done in my life. And I push back against it because I go, I don't have time to rest. There's too much work to be done, you know. Rest, ain't nobody got time for that. But I'm reminded, like, when Jesus was on this earth ministering to a group of 12 men specifically, as he ministered to the whole world, he was working through a group of 12 men. And he would regularly pull them out as ministry got going, hot and heavy. And they would just get away because he knew that they needed to do it. They'd had this season of really high ministry. He'd fed the 4,000. So just super mountaintop high. Next thing Jesus says to these guys, this is Mark chapter 6, verse 32, is, come with me. And let's get to a quiet place and get some rest. I think in a lot of ways he's trying to say, guys, this is going to get to your head if we don't get away. Like, I need to get you guys away because we are right now experiencing some ministry stuff that's blowing your mind. And it's a good thing. But we got to pull away for a minute because I got to do some work with y'all. I got to help you understand and put into context what's going on. And if we just keep up with this ministry routine over and over and over again, and we just keep healing people, and you keep seeing all these miracles, like, you need your hearts reset. So let's get away for a little bit. There's something about that rest that without it, the disciples' ministry and the disciples' effectiveness was not going to be the same. I think of, in the Old Testament, Elijah. And the vulnerability of his testimony is about, it might be one of my favorite character stories in the whole Bible. Because he goes from ministry high to depression in like 60 seconds. I mean, he just lives his emotions and the spiritual ups and downs about as evidently as anybody we have in the Old Testament, maybe save David. And he has this moment where he's tapping out. He's done. God has had some big stuff on his plate. Heavy stuff. And God has moved in incredible ways. But the outside threat for him is still very real. There's a real threat for his personal safety and well-being. He's on the run. He's exhausted. He's wore out. And he comes to God and he's like, just take me out. I'm done. I'm ready to die. Just take me out right now. And God says, no. What you need is rest. And so he pulls Elijah out and he says, bro, take a nap. Seriously, go read the story. He doesn't use the word bro, but it's in there. It's kind of underneath the original Hebrew. Bro, take a nap. And then he wakes up from a nap and there's warm bread that's there for him. And he's again, bro, you haven't eaten. Like, you need food. Eat. And then after he eats the bread, bro, go lay down again. Like, you are absolutely depleted. You have run yourself into a wall. And the only way back, the only way to get back on your feet, Elijah, is you're going to need to spend some time just resting, allowing your body to recoup, but also to allow me to speak into your life in this moment of weakness, so that you can be dependent on me in a way that you're not. One of the things I hate about resting is I feel guilty when I do it. Because I feel like I should be working. I feel like I should be doing. I feel like I should be accomplishing. I feel like there's something that's undone that's not fixed. As a homeowner, gosh, it just feels like you could never sit down, right? But part of resting is sitting in that humility and knowing it's never, ever all going to be done. Nothing is ever, always going to just be right or be perfect. And if I chase project or situation after situation after situation, I will be no more happy, in fact, less, than if I just push it all back and I find my identity not in what I accomplish, not in what I do, not in who thinks I'm cool, but simply resting in the presence of God. If I could put one thing over your family, over your life for the year 2024 that I think could absolutely revolutionize your walk, could revolutionize your life, it would be to create a regular rhythm of rest. looking at margin as something to be hoarded, not something to be filling space with, and running to the foot of Jesus and allowing him to set his agenda in front of you. Jesus famously said in Matthew chapter 11, verse 28, he said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and humble in heart. You'll find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light." I appreciate this because, for one, the idea of rest almost makes us think the goal of this sermon is just to go lay down on the couch. That's not the goal, okay? The goal is not even to simply, like the Old Testament Sabbath, to be able to say, well, it's about not doing anything on one day a week. It's not exactly even that. The New Testament represents something different when Jesus says, "I am your rest. I have come to be your Sabbath rest. And I've come to do life with you." And he even uses this metaphor. My yoke is easy. A yoke is not a couch. A yoke is something that's hooked up to two oxen so they can pull a plow. Like, his intent for your life is not lay on the couch. It's like, I got an agenda for you. We're going somewhere. We're going to make something together. It's not just do nothing, but it's doing something at a pace and with a purpose and with a plan that's beyond what you could come up with on your own if you just start filling all the blank space with more appointments, more schedules, and more to-dos. My yoke is easy. My burden is light. Jesus says, "Come to me and let me be your rest. Let me guide every day of your life. Let me set a rhythm for you like I set with my disciples when I was here on this earth. Let me spend time and let's withdraw together. Let's have time where you don't have an agenda and I just get a chance to speak into your life, where you pour over my word and where you just take it into your life without preconceived idea about what you think it's going to mean. God, just clear our schedules. Open our lives, slow us down, and allow us to spend time with the Creator and the Sustainer of the universe. I promise you, you will be better for it, even if you accomplish less." And that's, like everything with Jesus, what becomes the paradox of faith. That how you can be better with less, how you can gain by losing. But that's the step of faith that Jesus is inviting you to take today with a whole year out in front of you. Will you determine and will you set a better rhythm for you, maybe for your family? Will you set a better rhythm that includes carving out regular space so that God can speak to your life? That God can refresh your soul, and that the pressures and the deadlines and all the to-dos of the job or of life can be put on pause for just a moment so that we can experience what it means to be dependent on God for everything that we have. You will be better for it if you can find that rhythm of rest on a regular basis in your life and carve out that margin so that God can speak to you, so that God can minister to your soul, so that the yoke of Jesus can be taken on to your shoulders and you can walk with him. I invite you to just embrace that today. If you've never embraced Jesus as a whole, in a relationship, I invite you to take that step today. You can respond via the code on the screen. You can respond as we sing this song. I'll be standing in the back. Would love to pray with you and talk with you. Let's commit together to just spend this moment with the Lord. Will you stand with me? Will you join me in prayer? Heavenly Father, God, your rhythm seems to be, for whatever reason, to us, too slow. It's one that we defy and push against and seem to try our hardest to resist. And yet you invite us every day, every week, every month, every year to set our rhythm to the rhythm you would have for us, acknowledging the way you've made us, acknowledging you as creator, acknowledging our needs and our brokenness before you. And God, pray that your strength can be experienced today as we respond. I pray that your hope can be felt and that all is not despair and loss, but God, that you can, in our midst, just move right now. In our schedules, that you can move right now. That even in this moment, God, that we can find our rest in you. And we love you and thank you. And it's your Son's name that we pray. Amen.